see one message. Daniel, thanks for the looking forward to the support. Okay, so it's interesting. It seems that on this app I can do, there seems to be messaging backwards, forwards. I had only a glimpse on the, but I'm streaming from the Haps, which is also multi-streaming on other platforms. I can see my YouTube being notified as well, and still waiting for the verification from the Twitter. So we are going to be, it will be a great experience now with this whole evolution of live streaming, let's put it that way. So I was just spending some time on the laptop. There seems to be some different features in there. I still have to learn a lot, so apologies in advance if I'm not immediately responding to the messages, and if I'm also not responding to the previous messages, I still have to figure out how to do that while I'm not streaming, because there seems to be an option to be exchanging a lot more social the opportunities for connectivities, let's put it that way. So anyway, to go back to go into the topic of this stream, this is not going to be a very long stream, and as it's multi-streaming, I want it to be packed with information, packed with the things that could be taken away from the forgetfulness that our minds tend to be. Certainly mine is, and but technology helps us in that way immortalize and leave the process untouched, frozen in time, maybe in that way. And especially live streaming, because it's emphasizing on the genuine, on the authenticity. So today I'm going to be doing 5 variation. I'll be sharing with the world the aria and 5 variation from the Goldberg variations, and also the 5 variation from this series of paintings that I've been working on in the exactly the same period that I've been working on the Goldberg variation. So it has been a process. I've been live streaming the creation of the paintings in most cases, maybe only 5 to 10% I didn't. It just happened in the spur of the moment. It was too fast. I couldn't grab all the setup, even the phone, and press live. And then I'm also going to be reading a small story that's corresponding to each one of the pieces. So this is going to be a little bit of an artist talk, an open studio. Seattle, Peter. Peter, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me. So it's very happy. I'm very happy to be actually sharing this now, to be starting this series on HAPS, because as we were discussing, I wanted to be a little bit more serious, a bit more focused, and since it's multicasting, so it's very exciting. Anyway, so now I'm going to be playing this. I'm going to be also saying a few words every so often about the piece, just to give a few words of introduction. So it's the Goldberg variations, one of the most famous pieces written by the legendary Bach. We probably all know, even though I specialize in just classical music. So we are separated a couple of centuries from the Baroque period, and the Goldberg variation. What's interesting is they were written as I mean, it's not 100% confirmed, because Bach is one of those composers who were not recognized as a composer during his lifetime, which is very strange, because like he's so like he really spanned in his expression and the construction all the way to the 20th century, and he wasn't recognized during his time, only 200 years afterwards. That's why there is a lot of thank you, thanks so much. And there is a lot of speculation as to what is the background. However, what we know from a certain sources is that it may have been written for a Goldberg, who was the first pianist. What's troublesome is Goldberg was just 14 years of age, but I think it's not impossible if he had at the time there was no piano but harpsichord. And it was commissioned supposedly by the Count ambassador, I think, to Russia, who just had insomnia. So this is in a way a lullaby, right? Which is a strange way. So that's why Bach may have committed this as a musical sacrifice, physical against spiritual, or non-physical, material against immaterial. So in that spirit, my whole series of painting, there's going to be 30 paintings. So far I've done 15. I've done one artist talk online over Zoom about this, and I've done all 15, but that's over an hour. Now I'm just going to be sharing, I'm going to be spreading this in chunks of 5. And I'm starting with today. So thanks so much for joining, and let's see how it goes. So now we're going to play aria, then talk a little bit, read a little bit, show the visual, so you'll have a little bit of a multidisciplinary experience and what I'm perceiving. So hopefully you also, everybody, please share in comments what is the impression and what do you see, because in my opinion, the beauty of live streaming is that we really can experience this sense of togetherness even though we are apart all over the world. So let's start. By the way, this was also streamed during Hannibal movie. One piece of trivia. So this is now aria. Read it. Wow, excellent, excellent. Read it as well. I was also sharing, and there was a lot of interaction. And then for some reason, I kind of withdrew a little bit, even though it was very positive, even though it's very bloodthirsty community, right? But I love that bloodthirsty as well. Sometimes stimulating. Anyway, that said, so this was aria. There is some speculation that it may have not been written by Bach itself, but somebody else who gave this kind of like it was like under that theme to do the whole variation, the whole sets of things to help with insomnia, something a little bit seemingly trivial, but it may not be so, because when we think about the dreams and sleep and the importance of such. So anyway, now a few words about the painting. So this is the painting that's corresponding to the aria. Originally I wasn't really having aria at mind. Wow, I was painting this sometimes this summer, a few months ago, and it was, I think it was not summer. No, actually it wasn't nature. I was live streaming it inside, but I had this kind of rebellious nature. Again, what I mentioned earlier, the material versus immaterial, all of those kind of structural versus fluid, kind of a yin yang, and maybe in a way it's struggle that someone or anybody feels, and there is a sense of sacrifice in the spirit of what we may be thinking, that if it's true that the Bach really indeed felt like a sacrificial lamb if he had to respond to the commission. So, hey, hello, welcome, Lily and Suki as well. So now I'm going to be reading, because I wrote in respect to each one of these pieces. I was writing a little bit also about Bach creating the limitless abilities, and I'm going to also, yeah, move a little bit so that you can see the painting while I'm reading. So, aria, a movement from left to right until we lose touch with the gravity, or rather until the movement itself becomes so powerful that the earth zooms out into distance, far away and yet present, all encompassing. It's at the center of many ambiguities that we find the freshness for the newness. The core of this piece is in the rebellious nature of flowing life, even though as it emerges from the turmoil of time, space, gravity, it's aware that at some level everything is static, probably the level of ideas which we can't access from the point of view where life exists. So I'm seeing in here, this is probably so far, because I've done 15 so far. Uh, the only slightly figurative, because I accidentally painted a bird. I don't know if you can see in here. There is an eye. By the way, most of these pieces are action paintings, so they're done very fast, 15 to half an hour. And there is clearly an eye in here, and there is a bit too big. And fire, zooming in and zooming out, is one of the very important elements of my visual expression, of visual world, let's put it that way. And of course, it's all about the colors, and I'm trying to define the form with the colors. So that's also what is specific. Anyway, now the hair clip have to be employed. I'm going to be changing the setting in terms of the visuality. So these pieces most likely will be presented at the exhibitions of different types. And now we are going to be entering the world of the variations. And now, from now on, we are 100% sure that it was Bach who wrote, because this one is about the duality, in my view, the footprint, the mind that conquers the genes. This is not associated to Bach when I tell you something like this. It's just my own vision of what music may have represented to my mind. But everybody is different. But for me, I like to kind of articulate the interpretation and to kind of share it. So let's start. that one. It's a lot of mistakes, but this is live streaming. Daniel, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining. Another fantastic pianist working on the Beethoven concerto right now. Great to see you. Thank you. Are you tuning in from Haps or Periscope, or which one is it? YouTube. So anyway, so this one is about the duality, footprint, mind that conquers the genetics, and it's the painting that I wrote, that I made in the nature, kind of like very explosive, as you can see, as opposed to the aria, which is very compressed, very internalized. This one is Heps. Excellent. Yes. So very glad to see you in here as well, that we are kind of bringing the classical music to this world as well. Why not? So a lot of the explosiveness in this one, and I'm going to be reading the rebellious nature of human ways, the ways sometimes stronger than even what genetics predisposes. To my mind, Goldberg relation is a sacrifice between the physical and non-physical, commissioned and free, a quest for freedom, but in fact, the greatest freedom is in finding the universe within while changing the outside passively, almost a Taoistic approach of non-action while brimming with life and action within. So in a way, I'm perceiving both this painting, which is kind of very explosive, and the piece itself, which is also very kind of, very strong-willed, let's put it that way. Now, but we'll stream to the perfect, excellent, yes. Well, sounds good. It's really like with all the sad news, with the Periscope shut it down, we still, always something new comes up, and I'm glad that this app showed up, and that also it seems very serious and very happy about the management, which seems excellent. So we'll see. It's a great new chapter, right? So yes, and so now I'm going to be going on to the variation number 2, and I'm also looking towards kind of creating videos. You can see this is quite large scale. Leaving the footprints of videos, let's put it that way, on all the others, the YouTubes, and maybe not so much. I'll see about the Facebook. I still have to figure out myself about the Facebook, but we'll see. So the next one is about the elders. Enjoy? Yes, me too, absolutely. So the next one is about the elders telling a story about the value of simple life. Something of a purity with variation, in my opinion. So the painting is in here. It's fully corresponding to the piece that I just played. And see, yes, absolutely. It's fully corresponding to the piece that I played, in the sense that I've been thinking about it, and also thinking how would it look like if I wanted to transfer the sound into the visuals. And so I was creating this kind of, the lines in one direction, maybe a bit counterintuitive because it feels like counterclockwise, but we all come to this world right-handed or left-handed, and I think in that sense, I mean, there is a lot of symbolism that we could go into it, but for me, I think that when it comes to the stories of wisdom, we sometimes have to go into the counterintuitive. And that's what I felt with this piece. So, the value of the simple life as told and experienced by the elders. We go forward and upward, but at the end of the day, the chase with time is a losing game. We realize that the true value is in the simple life, and when it's told by the elders, it gains the maximum value. This piece is a criticism to this civilization that venerates the youth and sometimes ignores the elderly, while the true knowledge gets inherited from one pillar of know how to another, and they all stand upon years spent in contemplation and learning, not in the enthusiasm of the aimless youth that, sometimes led by the superficial, ends up chasing the dreams of fleeting status symbols. I think that our society is unrightfully youth centric, and in many cases, centrism ends up crippling itself. This piece, to my mind and perception, is about a different perspective, a narrative of the elder, the eager ears of the younger, as they merge toward creating the vision for the better tomorrow. So there is a bit of visionary, maybe in the central part of this piece, I would say, with this green construct in here and in there, that there is something of a very much an optimistic spirit. So now I'm going to be moving on to the variation number 3. Let's just go on. Now with the variation number 3, in a visual sense, I still think that it's going to be taking quite some time. I don't think I've finished this piece. The the life on this planet is the process, and when it comes to the arts, it's always a process. So let's start. I think that my piano is touching the easel, so it's creating a little bit of buzzing sound. Now, So this one was about, hi, Bobby Vicker, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining. And also from, so now this one is a semi-musical, semi-visual, semi-written word into your wonderful visual world. Thanks so much for the attention today. So I'm going to now be talking a little bit about this. There's a bit of a chain of aesthetics with this piece. I was going into all of this kind of like complexity of how to divide the complexity of the beauty in the eyes of the beholder. That's what I've put as an impression behind this piece, because it's almost like a meditation about what's really beautiful. How do we create this? Exactly. Thanks so much. Yes, I'm fairly new to this hub, but I'm quite excited that it can multi-stream, and then also there's all this like awesome design and also incredible community. It seems that there is a lot. And John, thanks so much for joining all the way from Seattle, right? Now I think finally that this is a good time zone. I was thinking what time to live stream, and then I realized that I usually do the this artist talks. I usually in the evening time. It's very specialized, and then I thought, why not? Let's do this. And in general, even though I'm not very much an evening person, when it comes to the music, for some reason, if I'm performing, it's a bit more focused. Whereas previously I was always live streaming in the midday, somehow around those hours. Anyway, let's go. So that's why I want to kind of compress this and to give an insight into the how it looks like when I try to really open my mind and the whole thing. So now let's read a little bit about this piece that I've written, variation number 3. Beauty in the eyes of the beholder. The beauty is one of the most deceptive of the phenomenon. The moment we think of something as beautiful, the next moment it's withering away before our very eyes, and we are left wondering, how is it possible that the time is so ruthless, relentlessly deceiving us, taking away what we seek? The next moment we see the autumn and the association is imminent. What used to be beautiful just a few months ago, or even yesterday, is withdrawing inside. It still is beautiful, but by hiding away from the deception of the perceiving eye, it's a test of the ability to discern the wisdom, which slowly sets in like a feather. It takes time and just the right currents of wind, or even the most gentle of the breeze, to set the feather with the help of gravity into the right motion and the place of balance. This piece is about that balance and the will to overpower the deceptions of trance, illusions, and gravity itself. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. To my mind, we all build this facility throughout life, and it's deeply ingrained in the ability to wonder that we seem to have in plentitude in childhood, but it starts to ebb as we assimilate with the norms or what surrounds us, this creating a little cage that gets smaller or larger depending on the state in which we choose to live, as Nietzsche defines famously between a camel, lion, and a child. So there is a lot of the existential in here, in fact. I just realized today I was asked about the one exhibition online, and the topic was existentialism. And in fact, this one was the most existential of all. This one is questioning, and I sent and some other pieces I can't keep in my mind which piece is about what. Anyway, so probably now I'll send this one even though it's not finished. It doesn't matter. It could be one version, one exhibition, another, and another. So that's basically there. There is a lot going on in here, and I probably am going to be working some more on it. Now, you see, my hair clips are doing so far a good job, but it will probably going to be could be some meltdown of the paper. So now the next one is probably one that's very dear to me because it's talking about, you can see it's very violent and it's very energetic. And that's not because it's dear to me, it's because of the philosophy. So it's all about the ideology, philosophical, about meritocracy, the most important aspect of any society, I think. Once the society loses the meritocracy, it's gone. It's dissolving, it's going downhill, it's finding itself at the bottom. So anyway, let's start. just wondering, should I practice this? Because there was a little bit of a wrong note. So let me just relax a little bit and go over and over it like a little bit of a stream of consciousness. I'm not too happy with the way I played this. Okay, that's something I wouldn't have done on the artist talk, but anyway, it's just to leave it a little bit in a better state in the consciousness while the consciousness is working its way towards the complete assimilation, becoming one with music. Now I'm going to be reading about it. So as you can see, there is a pretty much a little bit of a unification in there. So variation number 4, the authoritarian power of the ideology, philosophical spine that binds all. The genetics, the ultimate and invisible ruler of all, is functioning with 4 elements. Many things are divided by 4. Chinese fear 4 more than anything because it sounds like death. It's the most definite of all the numbers. And this is a variation number 4, inspired by Goldberg variation number 4, which to my mind deals with the ideological, philosophical, authoritarian construct that so often we need, but sometimes we also need to overcome it, replacing it with new and balancing with the freedom of experiencing just because I can. This statement, just because I can, comes with a burden of responsibility, something the 21st century is still learning. In the past times when technology was much further removed, people were able to get away with taking the shortcuts, cheating the system, short-term benefits. But as we celebrated the second millennial birthday, this privileged, even though massively practiced, is increasingly more difficult and dangerous to be free-floating, libertarianizing, endangering the most sacred of all, the meritocracy. So that's what I perceive behind this piece. And it kind of has a little bit of an eye in here. I usually have this a sense of a fiery, sense of a fire, water, zoom in, zoom out, the elements of always exploring what is the power, what is the life, always the phenomenology. And then also very important, the effect of the merging of technology. That seems to be some of the very important aspects. That's why I'm feeling these, and it's also about the movement. We are existing in this very much moving world, even though we can't see all of the molecules that are constantly, vibrating, and all of the particle entanglements and all of these theories, and all of the possibilities that we are connected to this furthest end of the universe. It fascinates me, and then the time, that actually time space, that can change the and create this movement within. When we are thinking about the black hole, it doesn't expand when it absorbs all of this matter. It actually is changing the time space itself. It stays the same, but it's changing. The time space itself is changing in its texture. How fascinating is that for the movement? So in a way, I'm feeling that kind of energy with this piece. And then also the redness have recently started to have the association of the material in my mind to the flesh. So I often like to say redness, the fleshness of the existence in this body. So now the next one, number 5, I might also be kind of practicing a little bit because this one is in the progress. Somehow I can't absorb it fully. In terms of the painting, it's probably one of my favorite in these 5, the section of 5. I have ready 2 more section of 5, but then after that it's the tabula rasa. It has to be filled. So let's start. I totally forgot to do the repetition of the first part, so I'm going to do it now. Sabotaging brain. Still have to fix some parts of this. I'm not going to be working on this any longer. Maybe after I finish this stream, it's really yeah. I entered. Yeah, I think so. Exactly. Anchored in warmth. There is something to it because, in fact, the theme of this piece, my impression of it is defining the delight. So when I started the painting, I was thinking, how do I define the delight visually? How do I do something like that? And and these colors were emerging in my subconscious, so I wanted to kind of to capture it in this sense of again the movement, very much a softness, but then also a structure. So defining the delight conflict that one has to pass in order to reach the bliss. What is it that makes us feel the exhilarating sense, the prolonged excitement that something benevolent, mild, and nurturing? Usually, at first, it's the deception of the beauty, but at second, if the individual is worthy of such a sensitivity to see beyond the spring and summer colors of the flowers It is the delight of the bareness of the bones, the structure that emanates the delight, but at the same time seems ugly. It's a task, a power, and the belief system that's able to build and recognize the like in the self and the other. The like reflects the like, and hence lies the primordial unity of the selection and elimination process. Sometimes the delight remains invisible to the coarse eyes, mind, and thus protected from the possible imminent abuse because the eye mind is jealous and greedy. It wants ever more and wider, and above all, it wants to sit on top of the heap, lazily triumphant in its own ignorance. And here, I think I'm finishing this this stream. This was just a very how long was I going on since? It was a very short one, I think, right? But oh no, it's not that short. How did it manage to be almost 40 something minutes? I have no idea. Yeah, 42 minutes. Wow. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, John and everybody. Thanks for joining. So, yeah, it turned quite, maybe because I was practicing a little bit. So I just want to immortalize, and I want to immortalize as I'm creating. This is the latest series. I was naively thinking that I would be creating one painting per day, but I completely forgot that I live on Earth, that there are all sorts of responsibilities. There are so many things that happen unexpectedly. There are other things, there's so many other things that I have to do during the day. So it turned out to be more than a month. It's late, but yes, exactly. So I will probably be within the new year, fairly within maybe probably the whole of January, maybe until the new the Chinese New Year, maybe until that time. The Goldberg Variation Project will be finished in its visual sense, and the musical aspect, I will have to record that till after the Corona releases the change that it has imposed. And as for the writing, that's no problem. That usually happens very fast and is kind of in the mind as the visual and the musical gets the codes of music. So anyway, we are actually transposing from one code to another in here, and yeah, but the artist talk, actually maybe that's it. Maybe this is the proper way to spread this along the five, because there's usually a lot of the talk, and this is quite rich in the construct, and there is oftentimes a lot to be said. It's not just written. Yes, I know, absolutely, me too, because it has been such a long and rich process, and a lot of struggles, because I'm not fully comfortable with this type of. I've been studying Bach a lot. I recorded the Art of Fugue, and really the polyphonical, the fugue is more close to my mind, and but still this is incredibly rewarding, because I feel like Bach is sending some kind of a philosophical message, and even though we will never know unless we invent, which we might, the time machine, we will probably be always guessing. And so I've just decided I'll be guessing, and I'll be giving my interpretation. There's a little bit of a conflict in here as well. When we are in the process, I mean, this last piece, the number 5, as we try to define what is it that the delight is within ourselves, we have to resolve the conflict. There is this tension. But exactly. Yes, I've been working for a long time with the variations, I think a long time, and then I abandoned them. So this is my typical way of ruminating on the pieces. And then the other day I revisited the number 6 sonata by Prokofiev, which I haven't touched for a year. And then it wasn't as catastrophic as I thought it would be. So maybe somehow it's stored in the memory, and then only the weak parts resurface as weak. So they have to be faced, which just proves that you never run away from the demons. You just have to face them renewally all the time. So anyway, with this, this was very enjoyable. Actually, I enjoyed this a lot. When I do just the talks, it's kind of more intense in the small pieces at once, and kind of like the audience is different. But now I'm just immortalizing this across platforms, and very happy about the HAPs, and hope people join HAPs as well and explore and enjoy this app. Give it a chance. Give the live streaming first of all the chance, because now more than ever, with all the happenings in the world and with the corona fully locking us down, making us look within and without through these phones, it's I think that it it should be given a chance, because I really believe that through live streaming the most authentic is getting through, and probably more people in the future, once we get rid of all the inhibitions, will just be sharing some aspects of the world that are worthy of sharing. So anyway, thank you so much for joining, everyone. John, special thanks for joining me in here as well as on Twitter and everywhere else. And thank you for the subscriptions. And I hope that people will also connect to other networks. And I hope to create another, there will be a series of 30 divided by 5. How many is that? Where is my math? 6, right? So there'll be six pieces, semi-formal, exactly, except for the hair clips. Actually, on a formal presentation, I had exactly the same setup. I had the hair clips. Otherwise, I couldn't figure out what to put in there. So I think that's also another of the beauty of the online, because we can just be resourceful with the things we have. And they're not even color coordinated, thinking about all of the importance of color, the spirituality in art by Kandinsky. This is one of the books I would recommend. It's a very short one, but it's going deep into the colors, the meanings, and in general, the brilliant mind of Kandinsky. And he was also transposing between musical and visual and back and forth, and a lot of expression with which it's possible to capture the other than the self, the divine, right? That, thank you so much. And also really appreciate. So I'll see you next time. Now just finishing this. Hold on a second. I have a feeling that it's a little bit overexposed, but anyway, this is, oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button.